Hi, I'm Dominic and welcome to my future. So it's been a long time since I've done a post, what with all the related craziness that's been going on in the world. Doesn't stop me thinking about all the different stories that I'm putting together for 45 hours to Singularity, and I've built up a good bank of stories, so fingers crossed we should have some interesting new content coming in the next few weeks. However, I'm gonna come back after my big hiatus with a really hard-hitting story, and here's a bit of a warning: if you find content such as Dunblane, Sandy Hook to be immensely disturbing, perhaps just give this video a little miss, because it does deal with the very powerful issue of school shootings and how we can use technology in the future as a safeguard against that, but we must also be very aware that not all safeguards work. So, fair warning, if you're going to listen to the story, I really hope you enjoy it, and let me know your thoughts in the comments section. 9:01 a.m. Principal Gordon stood on his rostrum looking out at the sea of young potential, staring back from the hall floor. Row on row of the good, the great, the troubled, and, to be frank, the complete pains in the ass. The hall stank of cheap deodorant implants and youthful arrogance. The seniors, with their ARC unit implants already in place, sat looking distant as their personal AI fed them additional data on the day's drill. Super religious seniors, banned from augmentation by their families and churches, clutched ARC headsets like the under 16 population of the school. Most looked like they wished they could be sat in their own digital world like their contemporaries. Gordon wondered briefly how long religion had left in the world. Probably forever. There are always plenty of young people who could rationalise their bullshit emotional problems through a god. A nudge from his personal AI, Howie, reminded him he needed to start this assembly, and that thoughts like that could be flagged up on the deep security feature of his enhanced ARC. It was a unit designed for professionals in sensitive positions, such as school principal. Okay, ladies, gentlemen, and non-binary, settle down. Today's drill is required under Judiciary Directive 5004, Educational Security. You've all done this before, either at this school or your previous one. Please remember, this is a virtual experience and none of you are under physical harm. Should you feel undue emotional stress, then your ARC unit will shut down the experience straight away and counsellors will take you to safe zones. If any of you feel like disregarding the instructions you get from the security package in your ARC systems and screw around with this drill trying to be heroes, then do please remember that you will receive an immediate downgrade of your digital and AI privileges. Do I make myself clear? Please, go now to your classes. The drill will take place sometime in the morning. 10:43 a.m. Sally Trebus sat in chemistry, surrounded by a whirling virtual haze of ever-changing molecular constructions. Each virtual molecule the size of a basketball, creating sodium something or other. Sally had stopped caring. What she really cared about was getting through the next 10 minutes without the drill starting. She really needed to talk to her friends at morning recess about what to do about Jay. They'd dated twice. Sally had never made it to a third date before, but it looked likely that Jay was going to ask sometime soon. Sally wasn't sure what level to take things on date 3, and at 15 years of age, nothing was more important. Her AI, Nadia, appeared in the digital visual frame and Sally held her breath that the drill was about to start. She'd have to wait till lunch to talk about her upcoming problem. Nadia raised an eyebrow. Sally sighed and went back to staring at the digital swirl that blocked out her view of friends, enemies, and the classroom as a whole. 10:54 a.m. Alert! 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 Sally jumped. 1 minute from recess and they pull this shit now, she thought. Nadia hung in the air in front of her, glowing red. Sally, this is a personal safety emergency. You must follow the red virtual route projection. Do not deviate from the projection. If the route changes, you must follow it immediately. Walk and do not run. The route appeared. It glowed about 3 feet off the ground in front of her. She could see the teacher and her class under the ARC overlay. The class began to move into the corridor. Distant banging could be heard, but nowhere near. Sally was glad. The digital representations of victims were pretty poor compared to virtual horror scenes, but she found generic corpses really creepy when they were sprawled bloodless across the familiar corridors. Bang, bang, bang. Sound was getting closer now. Despite herself, Sally felt a tension in her tummy. She'd done half a dozen shooter drills in her school life, but she'd never seen a virtual shooter. Some of her friends had. They'd never really spoken about it afterwards. Some things just aren't good to talk about, she guessed. Virtual screams came from the gym area to match the noises of the gunfire. Her AI chimed in. Sally, change route now. Backtrack and confirm. Multiple threat sources. You must follow the red route projection. Do not deviate. If the route changes, you must follow it immediately. Walk and do not run. Sally turned immediately. There was no point dicking around in these sims. Kids who did always regretted losing their digital access in school. It was like reverting back 50 years to her grandparents' days. She could hear the bangs of gunfire coming from 2 different angles now. Virtual screams increased in volume in her ARC unit. Her class kept in a loose line about her. Despite themselves and their wish to appear cool and disinterested, they all appeared to be suddenly tenser than they had a few minutes ago. Sims had a way of sucking you in to getting involved with them, physically and emotionally. Suspension of disbelief, they called it in drama class. Then a 3rd round of shooting joined the other 2. Sally, return to your classroom. Now, confirm. Increased threat sources. You must follow the red route projection. Do not deviate. If the route changes, you must follow it immediately. Walk and do not run. Sally began to feel a little bit of concern. Nadia, has the sim broken? Nadia? Sally felt a change in the air, the atmosphere. It was a strange fragrance, sweet and smoky at the same time. The bangs were all around her and screamed louder and louder and ever seemed more real than ever. She had heard that the closer you were to the centre of the sim, the more inputs you received, the more computation was spent on producing it. The more intense the experience, the more realistic the graphics. Well, that was okay, but virtual smell? No one had mentioned that. Sally, return to your classroom now. Confirm. Increased threat sources. You must follow the red route projection. Do not deviate. If the route change... Sally, run. The whole corridor erupted as every member of the class, even the teacher, began charging back to their classroom. Suddenly, the feeling of panic was very real now. None of them, not even the teacher, could remember the AI failing to predict the precise patterns of movement a shooter would follow. None of them had been in a drill with more than 2 shooters. School AI guided pupils out past the danger source on the first calculation 98% of the time. The statistic was known by every school child. The classroom was the last option of refuge. Each door could be locked down by the school AI and was reinforced with bulletproof composites able to stand any legally available firearm. If they were heading to the classroom, the sim had changed drastically. 100 yards from the door, and Sally felt her foot slip in a liquid. She looked down, she saw her trainers stained and the slip mark through the puddle of blood. Looking round, she could see a shape laying huddled at the side of some lockers. The graphics on her arc unit might have been upgraded to represent this, but surely she would have known. Run, Sally, run, don't stop, run, run, run. The air was really smoky sweet now. Sally, sobbing, her stress indicator was flashing red over and over, but Nadia wasn't shutting down her arc unit. And despite the fact she felt tingly and numb at the same time, she wanted to be sick. Run, Sally, run, run, run. Her class was gone. She began moving to a turn in the corridor when a young man stepped round. Sally recognised him. He'd been a friend of Jay's. Not a close friend, but certainly not a stranger. He was one of dozens of boys who, they weren't ugly, but not quite good looking enough to interest. Not boring, but not exciting. Just a boy. One of the boys that all the girls ignored. Run, Sally, run, run, run. There was no glowing line to follow, no safe path. He walked right up to Sally, and then passed. And she realised he was holding a gun, every part of her clenched. Nadia was silent. Both of them frozen in the moment, watching the young man walk away. His face had been empty, like the seniors when they were in deep communication with their arc AI. His dirty brown footprints on the shiny corridor floor expressed far more than he ever could. Sally watched him turn slowly to look back at her, and then gave a shy little smile. The horrible black tube raised up to point in her direction. The warm wetness on her legs then was comforting, natural. He started to walk back to her, looking curiously at the spreading puddle around her. Run, so faint. Run. It was so far away. Run, the voice so fuzzy and distant. Run. So thank you for taking time to listen to that story, and I hope the key concepts in it, the fact that as the years progress, we're going to depend more and more on the ARC units, the ARC units. Elon Musk thinks Neuralink will be with us in 2030, Kurzweil, certainly mid to late 2030s, we will see full implants into the majority of humans. I did touch there briefly on the idea that religious families and children won't take the technology into their bodies. And again, this is based purely on such things as Jehovah's Witnesses refusing blood transfusions. We've certainly seen a lot of religious anti-vaxxers over the last couple of years. I don't judge, it's entirely your choice what you do with your body, and the consequences are entirely your responsibility to deal with. However, with futurology predictions, like mobile phones, it will become so ubiquitous and so normalised that I can easily see, certainly by 2040, 50% of the world's population having an arc unit type device, and I would say in a developed country much closer to about 75%. I certainly think the Western churches are going to allow them to a certain degree. I can't see Catholicism, certainly not in my country, the Church of England, turning them down. Perhaps some of the evangelical religions of America will, but I think the sheer advantage they will give in the world of social communication, and certainly business and science and politics, they'll be very, very hard pressed to keep them out of their movements. With regards to the content that we've come across, I don't see anything in the future that will prevent more mass shootings from happening, as people become more and more unpredictable. Thank you very much for taking time to listen to the story. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will be getting back to our central character Tao in our next video. Thank you.